So that's it. This is Nigeria right now. Action.
Thank you for the opportunity once again.
Thank you.
How is Nigeria treating you?
Well, we're enjoying the things we can enjoy, and we're dealing the things we can't. So it's a tough time.
Tough time. Yes. Okay. Nigeria right now with Dixon Irebu. Today my guest is Prince Malik Ado-Ibrahim. He is the chairman, NIGAS, chairman chief executive NIGAS, and of course the former presidential candidate of the Young Progressive Party in the last general election.
Yes, sir.
Wow. It's 1 year plus already since that experience.
Absolutely.
What's looking at all of what is playing out in our country now? What will you say is about our country?
Well, we have a president, and we have the duty to support what we can, and as a politician, critique where we can without causing undue stress on the public. Nigerians have suffered a lot since the last 8 years.
9 years plus.
Yes, and we're expectant to just be quiet and not do a lot. But this is the time of reflection. This is the time of strategic thinking. I think that the political arena is still not what I would ideally see or would like to see in Nigeria. We're still confused. We don't have an ideology. We don't have a path. Same old people, same old rhetoric. Again, as I said during the elections, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, looking for something different to happen. If we do not make a change, we will not get one. So we're still a train stuck on the same track. And we're seeing the consequences of that.
Clearly.
I don't think the man came in trying to do bad things. I think they just didn't plan.
There was no plan at all.
There was no plan. I think his intentions are good, but there's a lot of things that are covered in the murkiness of whether it's tribalism or Lagosism or whatever it might be. I don't think the best people that could serve Nigeria are serving the country. You can pick, I certainly am disappointed in many regions that we haven't taken good care of the citizenry. And I think that, of course, they have a plan to stay. And
a plan to stay.
Of course, they want to do another 4 years. They would. There's no.
We have not even gotten half of the first one yet, and people are dying of hunger in our country.
Yes,
there's excruciating hardship in our country.
It is.
And somebody is discussing second term already.
They didn't come in to do one; they came in to do all. So I don't think I would fault them wanting to do that. Whether the intentions are there or the ability for them to stay is there, but certainly the intention is there. What the intention of those that are observing, that are in the political class, need to be doing is how do we, shortchange that thinking and give it only a 4-year term. We've seen the example of what's happened in the US.
That's where I want to go to.
He lost the first 4-year term. Hopefully he's learnt. But there's some positives and negatives in my mind as to what this means for the US. But as a Nigerian citizen, that's their lot. We have to figure out how we deal with our 4-year term.
But there should be lessons that we can pick from the process in America, right? Being the very focused, the main democratic nation that we can really talk about.
Yes.
What played out? What areas do you think, comparing it with what we do here?
Well,
what areas do you think we can improve upon?
Ideologies are different.
Is it just ideology? What about the system?
Well, we tried to replicate their system in one way and tried to modify. We haven't gotten our system right. We haven't understood our constitution. It gets abrogated by people here and there. It gets diluted or polluted. The American system is the American system. They know the Electoral College. They know where they need to get to. But essentially, there are really only two parties. The rest don't work.
So the process is predictable if followed.
Predictable.
Unlike here, where you may be all with the best manifesto and all of that, and yet you cannot clearly state, oh, this is where it's most likely going to go to. Was this predictable for you?
No, this was certainly not predictable in the U.S.
It wasn't for you?
It wasn't. I had a preference of somebody who I would like to see, but that's...
You were for Kamala Harris?
Because as a friend, I will support my friends, and that's what a true friend
I'm
does.
a distant friend to Trump.
I'm sure you are.
Supporting him. So here we are.
Here we are. But the thing is that you'll see there is the process will happen, a winner will be chosen, and the process.
Time too.
And the,
you can follow
there's due process, absolutely. Although ours was supposed to be so, I believe, and most people believe, that things played out a way that was predictable to the winner, and the losers just didn't do their homework properly.
Okay. The aspect that has to do with America and your preference for Kamala, and of course my guy Trump, I'm looking at the lessons really, because talking about ideology and the system, predictability of that system, that you can follow the election results as they are unfolding and all of that. That failed in our country, especially when in the last election, the INEC chairman promised heaven on earth about real-time projections and all of that, and it failed because of a glitch, which we don't know what that glitch is about up till now. What's your take about what played out?
Well, when you have 18 parties participating in an election of the nature that we had, for example, my party being one of those, the field is too broad, the opportunities to manipulate are there. I think the American system has a clear definition of the two ideologies, Republican and Democrat. You've got some other scattered people, but they're really non-players. So the pots in which you're counting are A or B. And so the ability to manipulate that system is very difficult. You're either falling in this or by the wayside, or you're falling in that or by the wayside. And so I believe that we need a smaller pool of parties. I believe that really we need a two.
We should narrow it down to two political party system.
Anything other than that, we're killing this nation. Because we do not have...
What about independent candidates, by the way? Sorry about that.
Well, independent candidates are there in every field, but I don't think they can carry the day, because the bitter lesson I learned through this whole process is that the structures you must have in place do not benefit an independent candidate. Okay. An independent candidate should fight to be on the ballot or support a team, just like Kennedy kind of supported Trump. That creates if the numbers are overwhelming, we get better results. But when they're so scattered and individuals want different things, it's a hard game to play, and it allows for all sorts of intrigue to happen to the results.
As we saw in 2023.
Well, I wasn't there, but things were not as they seemed.
Yes, but let's bring to the aspect of leadership, right, in our country, because all of this boils down to leadership, failure of leadership and all of that. The aspect of not having a plan, right? That's what you infer, that it's not about, not knowing what to do, but there's no plan really. There was no plan. So how will you rate the leadership qualities of President Tinubu?
As a leader, you've got to define what leadership is. On the global scale, if I wanted to look at what leadership is to a Nigerian, it's not working. It's not working because not because the man doesn't want to lead. I don't think that they came in with a plan to lead. Those that he chose to be his surrogates have done a woeful job. I think they put him in more of a mess than he intends to. The president cannot be omnipresent. He's not God.
Definitely not.
All he can do is select the right people and then give them that vision.
Yeah, but the buck stops at his table to hire and fire. If, for instance, you hired me and I'm not performing, trusting you, I'm sure you fire me like yesterday.
And as I said, the president of Nigeria needs to be the chief executive officer of this country. If you've not run a business, if you've not built a business, if you have not understood what to hire and fire is, what HR is like, when you're human resources, you find the best person, the apple for the apple job. when you don't know how to balance your budget, when you don't know your strategic plan, and when you don't know where you're going, then you failed from ab initio. So there's no reason. And no politician that I have seen, I stand to be corrected, has started a business and grew it. That's why we have failure, in my opinion. And that's
I mean
why
the Nigerian politicians.
In the context of Nigeria, yes. Politicians overseas have, been the problem for countries like America. Trump said, "I'm a businessman. I'm going to come in." He's very pro-business. The stock exchange went up 900 points. The economy is his focus. Yeah, that's what he wants. He's not interested in wars and all those things. He has his sore points, and I think for America, he's good. For the world, I think it's going to be a wait and see again. I mean, we were called S-hole as Africans were concerned. And so
we were only challenged to go fix our place because
we've always been challenged to go.
Yeah, that's what he meant by calling those names. By the way, I'm a Trump guy, so
yes, but as a Trump guy, you're living in what he called, and we haven't been able to change. No,
we owe ourselves, just like what we're discussing about our country. If leaders in our country were to get it right, nobody will address us like that. That's why. So why are we begrudging the guy for telling us the home truth?
No, it's not whether I begrudge them or I have absolutely no interest in the United States. I'm not a fan of the country. I'm not a fan of what they do globally. They're a necessary evil, and so are all the other players. We've got to get our home right.
I agree.
Look after number one so the number one can look after the rest.
Yeah.
We have failed since 1999, as far as I'm concerned. When other people pick who will lead this country, we've never had a proper election. After Abacha, the powers that be brought the former president in and put him there, installed him. Since then, we've had this decay. We were lucky to have that structure where in 1999, in my opinion, Mr. Obasanjo was able to go around the world and ask for relief. And from when he got that relief and came back, what he did with his vice president has deteriorated Nigerian politics to the point where the spare tire will remain the spare tire as a vice president or deputy governor. We don't pick from the best. We get people installed. This is not the way a democracy works. Now, as far as I'm concerned, yes, as far as the president has been sworn in as the president of this country.
He's our president.
He's our president.
Yeah.
But where's the patriotism? I have segments in which I disagree with a lot of things. We're not trying to fix something. We keep insulting the guy in power. Where are the opportunities that a political opponent, who is your shadow government, is now telling you messed up on oil? Don't throw insults at the guy. Don't tell him what we know. Yes, the prices are high. What would you do?
The alternative, yes.
Not one of them would have done anything different.
Really?
Not one of them.
What about hiring the right people to work with you? You talked about Obasanjo. Obasanjo had the best of economic team and all
after
of that.
Everything went to the hole that Mr. Trump has discussed. We have not gotten leadership right because, as far as I'm concerned, the person who takes Nigeria out of this must never have touched power.
Must never have touched it.
Never have touched it.
Not before now.
Because you favors you owe, you must repay.
What about the place for experience then?
Experience. They're politicians. They're not executives. They can't run a country. Look at what we have in the National Assembly. Look at what we have. That is just a rubber stamp of what the president wants. They're not deliberating. We change a national anthem without
to
any
achieve
what? Where was that debate? Where did the public have an interest? This is not a monarchy.
How is that our problem? National anthem. How is that our problem? But some would say, okay, maybe that would stir some level of patriotism.
How?
Because patriotism seems to be missing even among citizens.
The words are meaningless if the soul and the mind are not behind them. We don't understand what those words mean. Half the people that understood the old national anthem, people like myself that grew up in the 60s, that was our national anthem. It changed. It took some time. We got all these young people to learn arise, oh compatriots.
Yes.
And then they didn't all get it right. And now you change it again. We have confused
Hailing Nigeria.
we have confused everybody. Those of the old school and those of the present time. And I'm sure that most Nigerians feel that, you know what, I'm not even going to sing it.
Okay, we'll take a break, and then when we come back, I'll look for solutions from your end. Because being that you were a former presidential candidate yourself, I want to believe there will be possibly some things you will do differently. So we'll come back.
Nigeria right now. Do you know why I stay very late at times in the office? So I can watch Nigeria right now. Very incisive, very detailed, and very informative. And most times, very direct. So my name is Ikenga Imo Ugochinyere, member of the House of Representatives, defender of the defenseless, fighter for justice, equity, and fairness, and a great son of rule of law. So make sure you watch Nigeria right now to get the real details without any adulteration. Nigeria right now with Dixon Irebu. Bet you like it.
Welcome right back. This is still Nigeria right now with Dixon Irebu. Today my guest is Prince Malik Ado-Ibrahim, former presidential candidate of the Young Progressives Party, right, in the 2023 election. Okay, Prince, I think we've engaged enough about what this leadership is not doing right, whether it had a plan or not, and all of that. Let's bring it to your end with the situation of things in our country. Many have argued that we got here. I think we stated that even before we went on break. The subsidy is gone statement that was made on that very day at the inaugural speech of the president. That's what got us here. But that all the presidential candidates, particularly the major ones, all of them said that they were going to take off subsidy. Is that your position too? And if it is, would you have approached it the same way? What cushioning effect would you have put in place to ensure that we don't get to where we are now?
You see, the situation is, in hindsight, of course, I can say many things, and I wasn't there, it wasn't my leadership skills. I can't knock my president. But I can definitely give some guidance as to what I would have done differently.
Yes, please.
And maybe even proffer some solutions going forward. The main problem was there was no countermeasures to what we're experiencing today put in place. There was no thought about what are the consequences
of taking this policy.
And if you took those consequences in play, yes, subsidy was going to go. And the opposition, whether it's Peter Obi or Atiku, said it's going immediately. They would have done the same thing. But the planning would have taught you in that from March to May that we need...
Before swearing in, right?
Absolutely. We're going to get electric vehicles. We're going to have mass transit. We're going to get X, Y, and Z put in play. And there are a lot of things that I would have certainly done differently. The idea of the foreign exchange being altered in the way CBN worked, there should have been some real thought about how this would have worked. And I think a lot of people were so eager to be in his cabinet that they didn't speak truth to power. And in not being able to do so, you know, the king is naked, but you can't tell him that he's naked. And as I said, I believe the president is a well-meaning Nigerian. I don't think anybody goes there to be mean, but...
there was no plan.
But Lagos is not Nigeria. The crop you had in Lagos to pick from, yes, they were, at the time being, maybe they were the best people for the job. I wasn't there, it wasn't it's not my state. But Nigeria, you need to bring everything together. You can't bring people from one sector to come into the middle to run the whole thing.
The affairs of it that affects everybody.
It's not possible. And I would have hoped that he would have reached out to some people with the abilities that he needs. And it's not too late. We're only getting into the second year of what could be an 8-year term. But you
what
need
could
to
be? Can we please focus on the 4-year term?
Yes,
at least let's just focus on that.
So
we don't cause nightmare for Nigerians out there.
As a planner, I would still say, if I was in his position, I would plan for 8. It's not too late to turn the boat around. But people must see real consequences of your actions. We're in a situation today where in 2024 we've had 10 grid failures. I mean, that's probably the most insane ministry I've ever seen, and the person running it definitely
10 from January to now.
Unbelievable.
In October, in a week, it collapsed 3 times.
Now, why aren't you reaching out to experts on that? We are looking at consequences of our foreign exchange policy. Why aren't you telling the public what you're doing? You know, carrying people along sometimes has this comforting feeling that, okay, they care.
Yeah.
But when your power minister goes in and tells the Senate on television that, you know, a grid collapse is not a grid collapse because it needs to collapse to a certain percentage before it's called a collapse. But darkness is not darkness. I mean, we must be absolutely stupid to be listening to something like that, and we're even dumber for hearing it. I'm an antagonist to Mr. Adelabu because I think that in the ingenuity
That's the power minister.
Absolutely. The ingenuity of Nigerians that we've shown globally, he could have called a lot of people together and even looked for solutions, ready-made Nigerian solutions to a Nigerian problem, localizing the issue so we know what to do. You're going out and traveling out and telling us investors are coming in for renewable energy projects. It takes 2 years to build a plant because of the environmental impact. Whatever you're going to do in renewable energy is going to take you 2 years before you can even put, you know, a solar panel in the ground. Lying to the public does not bring you along. We see these degenerative effects of an old grid affecting everybody because, and I'm focused on power because that is the vein of life in Nigeria. Whether you're a homemaker or
talking about industrialization too,
or even doing what we're doing today without power. You're in an office that is running off renewable energy for the last 4 years. We do not have anything to do with the grid. And we are doing things in other places in the country and we're seeing results. But nobody is focusing on even bringing in that renewable energy to be part of the energy mix. And if you get that right, industry rises, education is better, healthcare is better. The
economy, you know, is revamped.
Now, if you're saying taking subsidies away, that subsidy plus this degenerative power means that fuel that I was going to use to power my generator is now more expensive. He has had 3 things collapse that made this a tragedy for this administration as far as I'm concerned for President Tinubu. The currency, power, and the subsidy removal. If you wanted to put a loaded gun with all the bullets in, that is what he's done, and you've committed suicide. Economic suicide for Nigerians. But it's not something that cannot be undone. And I think that if wisdom will prevail, you need to remove some of these awful ministries that are underperforming with the leadership and focus on putting the right people in there, even if it means teams of people, so that Nigerians can have that sense of belief back.
Okay, so do you think, for instance, the issue of subsidy is gone? Can it be withdrawn? Can the president... I haven't seen... Oh, it's done. It's done.
It's done. It's done. If it's
but
really
is subsidy
removed,
really gone? Is it
that's
gone?
what I said. If it's really been removed, then you can't go back and unring that bell because the consequences of what you've unleashed.
Yeah, but what's wrong with a leader? You know, if you made a policy and after a while you observe that it's not working and all of, is there anything wrong with
the consequences
pulling back and saying, okay, let's, for instance, 2012, right? Jonathan's administration had plans to remove subsidy. In fact, they had all the cushioning effects being put to Shopee and all of that was being put together and all that. And then when Nigerians went to the streets, including, of course, led by the current president and all of that, and the government pulled back and adjusted to what Nigerians wanted. It's about the people, isn't it? So if the people you're leading seem to be under punishment because of your policies and all of that, what's wrong with pulling the policy back? Is there anything wrong with that?
The consequences of the effect of that subsidy removal are going to be hard to undo. Nothing comes down in Nigeria. Prices do not come down in Nigeria. Never have and probably never will be until you as a leader decide you are going to stand by your word and cushion those effects and even have punitive measures for those effects. And case in point is food. We didn't prepare for the issues of the inflation. So the guy that's buying Indomie yesterday is now buying it today at a ridiculous price. And his salary hasn't improved. Nothing has cushioned his transportation cost. The young men in this room are looking at life completely different than they were 6 months, a year ago, 2 years. And you're making the Buhari administration look like superstars.
The best we've had.
And so what makes me uncomfortable is, as an opposition person,
yes,
and somebody who's looking at the future of Nigeria in the way that I dream it to be, I would definitely affect change in a completely different way. And the change will come from me as the leader, making sure that the public understood where I'm going. So, for instance, when they came into office,
yes,
I would have hoped that, let's just take aviation. I want Nigeria to have its national airline. Minister, do you agree? Okay, here are the steps I want you to take, and you do not deviate from my vision. I just feel they come.
And you monitor it.
Absolutely. Power, you monitor. The economy, you monitor. You have a team, an economic team that is vibrant, that is following your leadership, your vision of Nigeria. And I would come to the public and I'll tell the public, this is what you're going to get.
And when you say to Nigerians, oh, tighten your belt, at least you lead by example, by showing Nigerians also that you're not living larger than life when we are suffering. Because the president keeps telling us, tighten your belt, be patient and all that. But the guy is lounging, he's living big. As though we are good, and the economy is all rosy.
I believe there's a, I as I say, I'm not God. I'm looking at somebody who I hope has a plan, who thinks that what he's done and what he's been told that they put in place will change things. But the body language, the optics do not reflect that change.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing it in a way that the public can empathize with you as a leader, saying, oh, we're going through a tough time, but this man is good. I'm not seeing you in the streets. You're not visible. You're not. This leadership, when you win in Africa, is about almost being a god and not being a person.
The servant of the people.
And that has to change.
Yeah.
The ability for me to be able to speak to my people and tell them, this is what you're going to expect from me.
Yeah.
And then start to deliver.
Yeah.
The whole body language of the country will change, because the country is a reflection of the man that's going to be in office.
Yeah.
And that's the conversation we have. The reflection of America is going to be what Trump is and what we know him to be.
Yeah.
And Nigeria is going to be the same. So in the vision of where we are today, we have to take care of home. If the president feels that he needs better people, go and get them, Mr. President. You are the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You
no
can
excuses.
pull from any party,
Yeah.
any place.
Yeah.
You've got an FCT minister that's not even in your
Exactly.
party.
Exactly.
So let's do the right thing,
Yeah.
and let's move this.
So it's not
country
about
forward.
political party. Narrowing it down to just because, your party won and you stayed there.
History will judge you,
Yeah.
as you have judged other people in the past.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you,
Thank
Prince.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nigeria right now with Dixon Irebu. I'm in a good mood because, I supported a candidate in America who has eventually won the election, Donald J. Trump. But bringing it back home, discussing leadership, I had to come to Prince Ado-Ibrahim to discuss which way forward. Are we going to continue like this? Though he is attempted to say, that the current leader is aspiring to do 8 years. And I'm like, that's a nightmare if we're going to continue like this. No Nigerian is imagining that we're going to stay like this in the next, after these 4 years, another 4 years. Except, of course, things change. So there, Mr. President, the expectation is high. You are the leader of all Nigerians. No one was born to rule, and nobody was born to be ruled. Therefore, the privilege you enjoy today as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is expected that all lives should be positively affected by your leadership, not just your party members. If you have to go beyond your party to get the right hands to support your administration, to support your vision, just like Prince Ado-Ibrahim here has suggested, by all pleasure, by all means, Mr. President, do that. They are all Nigerians. That's what he's saying, so that we can just fix our country. And like we would always say on this show, so that we may build a nation where no man is oppressed. I'll see you next week on this same show, Nigeria Right Now.